Good morning, Canisius High School community. It is Andy Deyell, your Vice President, back with another episode of Conversations with Canisius, our regular web series where we check on alums all over the United States and see what they've been up to since their time at 1180 Delaware. I am joined today all the way from sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, by a very special guest, Mr. Jack Herrmann from the class of 1979. Jack, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. It's great out here in Scottsdale.
And Jack has recently retired from his position as Senior Vice President for Sales for Optum, which is a subsidiary, I believe, of United Health Group. And Jack, I hope I got that right. Tell me a little bit about Optum and what space that's you guys are in.
Yeah, sure. So Optum is one of three arms of United Health Group, or I should say two arms. The United Healthcare business is the benefits business for, insurance, healthcare insurance, and Optum is the division for services. So any kind of health insurance, or not insurance, health services like nurse lines, transplant services, technology services, consulting services, pharmacy benefit services. So Optum itself is a couple $100 billion company, and United Health Group, of course, is that much larger still. So it's a substantial company in the healthcare business globally. It is the largest health services provider in the world, behind our federal government.
Wow. So, and we'll get to that part of your career, and you've had a very varied and long and storied career, and we're going to get into all that in a second. But before we get into sort of your professional life, let's go back in time to 1975. You're an eighth grader looking for high school in Buffalo, New York. How did you hear about Canisius? What brought you to the school, and what made you choose Canisius High School for high school?
Yeah, great question. So Canisius actually was a pretty known entity to me and my family. I had many cousins that went to Canisius before me, and I had two older brothers that went to Canisius before me. We grew up in Hamburg, New York, just off the lake shore. And of course, we had St. Francis High School there. But St. Francis was never really on our minds or on my parents' minds for us to go to high school, despite the fact that we all had full scholarships to St. Francis locally. My parents thought Canisius was a much better fit, a much better destination, and a much better education for all of us. So that's how I ended up there. There was not much debate in my household.
And while at Canisius, who are some of the big influences on you from a faculty standpoint?
Yeah. Quite a few. We had friends, Jesuit priests that were friends of the family, even again, years before I even went there. But some of the names that pop into my mind, Father Jerry McIntyre, John Uber, who was our physics teacher at the time, had a blast in his class, made some good friends in that class. Tex McPherson, Sylvester Kulagowski, probably the most influential faculty members for me, and they were more, in the Jesuit community there, were Father Pat Sullivan and Father Ed Nagel, who they were almost part of our family over the years. The two of them actually married my wife and I eventually when we got married. So there's many. Andrea Tierpak was a brand new teacher.
Right.
At Canisius at the time, and over the years I've stayed in touch with Andrea Tierpak infrequently, but frequently enough. It's like old home days when we see any of these folks. Of course, some have gone, are no longer with us, but yeah, some very influential people.
Great. And what kind of activities and clubs, sports teams, anything like that were you involved in while you were at Canisius?
Yeah, I was pretty involved. I played sports. I was a swimmer, as a baseball player. I was on student council for 4 years. Got involved in a variety of other big brother kind of things. But I also worked at Canisius my 4 years. Gave up a scholarship at St. Francis, had to pay my way to Canisius somehow. So I actually worked at Canisius for 4 years, either after school or on weekends. In the summers, I worked at the Jesuit residence actually as a kind of a handyman there. So
that's great. And then after Canisius, well, tell me a little bit about your college experience and sort of take us into your early work life.
yeah, I really, I'm really proud of my career. It was an adventurous career, I will say that. It's something I teach my kids all the time now. Out of Canisius, I went to the University of Notre Dame, and I had a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship to Notre Dame. Got involved in various things at Notre Dame, but mostly involved in our dorm life. Now, Notre Dame still has separate male-female dorms. The dorm I was in actually had quite a few Buffalonians in it. I did have an older brother there, but the dorm life was a big part of my experience at Notre Dame, as was, preparation in the military. So I was a mechanical engineer at Notre Dame, graduated with that degree, but then naturally went into the service right out of Notre Dame and served active duty time to pay back that scholarship. So that was my first so-called career out of Notre Dame, was the U.S. military, which I would encourage anybody, and in fact, I'm an American that believes everybody should have do some service through the military to our country. But the military was a great life. I got married. I met my wife, by the way, at Notre Dame, and we got married thereafter. And in the military, we were in Maryland, we were in North Carolina for the years that I was in, and I did my 4 active duty years and then 2 years. But it was a great experience. Would encourage anybody to check out that path. The civilian world doesn't offer, interestingly enough, at that age, that kind of responsibility, and it's a wonderful training ground. From the military, I decided I wanted to do something different, and I went to work for a mobile chemical company out of upstate New York, and I spent 8, almost 9 years with mobile, moved around the country a lot. In fact, it's kind of a theme and a joke with my wife and I. The first probably 15 years of marriage, we lived in 7 different states, or 7 different homes in various states. And all 4 of our children are born in 4 different states. So with mobile, I did a number of things. Again, the military was all a leadership job. So, and I think this is important for Canisius graduates to remember. While I came out of Notre Dame with a mechanical engineering degree, the roles I've been in were all leadership roles. So that's what Canisius is preparing you for. But at Mobile, I did a variety of things. I started actually in the engineering department, in a manufacturing plant, and learned a lot about operations and manufacturing and facilities and systems in that capacity. Enjoyed the heck out of that. But then I decided, well, I'd like to see what happens on the customer end of all of this operation. So I expressed an interest in sales, and boom, I was interviewed for a job in sales, and made another relocation, was in sales with Mobile for in an individual role for a couple of years, but then promoted to another role, moved again, and moved around the company. Mobile is one of those companies, and I think still is, that has these management tracks for promising young people. And that's something I think Canisius grads should be looking at when they are looking at companies. These management tracks give you exposure to a lot of different areas. So in my 8 years with Mobile, I did manufacturing, engineering, logistics, sales, marketing, general management. So, which includes finance. In fact, by the time I left Mobile, and the division of Mobile I was with was acquired by Tenneco, which caused me to move to Chicago about 25 years ago. In those 8 years, I was in every kind of management function there was, except for human relations and a straight finance job. But I did every other function. And that is really a wonderful experience to see how things work on a broad perspective. After mobile, in Tenneco, and I stayed on with Tenneco for a few more years. I decided that technology was where things were at. It was the late 90s, getting into Y2K issues and all. And I made a move into technology with a company called Computer Associates, which is probably one of the largest companies nobody's ever heard of. But every mainframe in the country is running what's the company's now called CA, and they've since been acquired too. But every mainframe in the country runs Computer Associates software in some capacity: security software, enterprise software, storage software, whatever. So it was another big company. I knew nothing about technology, zero. So that was another educational process for me. I started from knowing nothing, and again, worked my way through a bunch of different jobs at Computer Associates, sales, operations jobs at Computer Associates, before I decided, this is now 8 years later, again, and I decided healthcare was the future. And healthcare, interestingly, had been way behind the times, and I would argue to some degree still is way behind the times in terms of modernizing its capabilities for our population. So I went to a little known company at the time by the name of Ingenix, which was a little spin-off from United Healthcare. It was their technology business spun off. They were kind of servicing United Healthcare. And then they started acquiring little companies dealing with claims editing software, claims processing software, variety of technology services, some health services like nursing at the time, and a variety of services, again, that were coming out of the United Healthcare benefit services. That company became Optum about 10, 12 years ago. And when I started a little company, it was a couple $100 million business. And today Optum itself is a couple $100 billion company.
Wow.
Optum is split into three different major companies. Optum RX is our pharmacy benefit management business. Optum Health is the health services business. So things like I mentioned, like transplant services, nursing services, things like that are out of Optum Health. And then Optum Insight is the technology and data management kind of services. You hear everybody talking about big data and all. When it comes to healthcare data, Optum is the largest company in the world, again, next to the federal government. But that company, you know, what a ride that was. 14 years I was with Optum, from little old Ingenix to big old Optum. 14 years of just incredible growth, incredible experience in collaboration with the people I worked with over those years. Again, exposure to a huge spread of healthcare capabilities across all healthcare stakeholders, employers, members themselves, insurance companies, which I spent most of my time calling on other non-United Healthcare insurance companies, pharmacy benefit companies, pharmacy manufacturers. Just an incredible ride over 14 years. So until I retired last July, semi-retired. I like to say semi-retired.
Semi-retired. Good, good.
Yeah.
And if you look back over that very long and very sort of varied career in a bunch of different fields, and including your military service, can you, when you look back on your 4 years at Canisius High School, anything you can point to as far as lessons learned or takeaways that helped you through your, you know, personal and professional life these last 20, 30 years?
Yeah. let me frame it up this way, is the way I kind of think about how I ended my career and how I think about life. Life is about health. A good life requires health. But let's expand the definition of health. It's physical health, of course,
Sure.
emotional health, financial health, mental health, and spiritual health. And really, any of those things can collapse at any time in your life. But if you remember, all those 5 things are important. All those 5 forms of health are important. One can recover for the other in those down times. What Canisius does is it gave me at least the broad perspective on things, the high expectations, the ability to look at life that way and to discern what's right or wrong in my life right now. Is it my physical health? Then I need to beef up my spiritual health. And I would argue spiritual health is the beginning of everything. If you don't have spiritual health and emotional health, you got none of the others.
Right.
So I think Canisius helped prepare me for that with their broad education, with the high expectations of its students, with discernment, which of course is the Jesuit tradition of discernment. Think things through carefully. Think more deeply than the general population. And in today's world, that's more important than ever. Think more deeply. And I think Canisius gave me that head start into thinking more deeply about things to make sure I'm thinking about those 5 forms of health.
Sure. That's a great answer. As you've had the ability now to, as you reflect, and to also give advice to young people as they are getting ready to go to college, young alums, maybe they're getting ready to start their careers. What is some advice that you would impart on to young people today as they are about to go make their way into the world?
Yeah, number one, you are well prepared. Do not doubt that education you're getting at Canisius. You are well prepared. Be confident of your skills and capabilities. Therefore, have an adventurous life. Go after something that you think you want to do. Go after something you're afraid to try. I tell my kids all the time, fail often in life. If you're not failing a lot, you're probably not working hard enough. You're probably not trying enough new and different and wonderful things that you could be trying.
Right.
So stay open to things. Say yes to things. When somebody taps you on the shoulder and they want to try in something that you're not familiar with, go for it. Do it. I would tell you, one of my Canisius buddies, himself, he has an incredible career. He's well known in his business. And he said, Jack, you've got a pretty unique resume you've been in 3 different industries plus the military. He said, and he's a recruiter too, by the way. He said, that's not normal. Most people get in a slot and they stay in their slot, which is wonderful. If you find your calling, that's what you do. For me, I just wanted to try new and different things. And that's something I would encourage all graduates to think about as they go forward. Life's going to get hard at times. Life's going to be wonderful at times. When life is wonderful, don't think it's all you. Remember that there's other people and a God that's behind you in all of that. So give credit where credit's due. Try new things. When things go bad, lean on all forms of health.
Sure.
In some way to recover from that, and keep a positive attitude.
It's great. All great advice. Things that we can all use in our daily lives. And so I was going to ask you, do you have any thoughts on, you're out in Scottsdale. I talk to alums that are all over the country. Any thoughts or ideas about how we as alums of Canisius can help other young alums as they're sort of maybe going away to college, or maybe they're starting a new career? Anything you've thought about that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think, Andy, one of the things you're doing now is wonderful, reaching out to alumni throughout the country. It was done maybe 10 years ago by the president of Canisius at the time. When I lived in Chicago, he had a gathering of alumni in Chicago. It was fabulous. I met classmates I hadn't seen in years. And again, we're all coming out of Buffalo, New York, which, by the way, don't forget your Buffalo roots. That's the other thing I'll say. Don't forget your Buffalo roots, and don't forget your Canisius friends. I still get together with Canisius and St. Joe's friends 45 years later.
Wow.
We do it every year, and it's a wonderful thing. So don't forget all that. But the fact that we've got alumni scattered all over the country, most of whom have had great careers, I think we can help remotely. I think it's wonderful that you're networking. I would encourage you guys to continue doing that, reaching out, having events in different parts of the country, major cities. But I also think it can be a foundation for us helping graduating seniors, if they're coming into town, if they're coming into, for example, Arizona State, they're leaving Buffalo. They're out on their own now, which is a wonderful thing. But it might be nice to have somebody local to take them out to lunch or a cup of coffee at some point as they get settled in their new college life. Just to provide coaching, one of the things I enjoyed most over my career is the coaching of my employees. It's the most rewarding gift I've been able to give. And I think I was pretty good at it. I was told I was pretty good at it. But that's something I personally wouldn't want to lose. And I think there's a lot of us out there like that. And at least all my Canisius friends are still like that. So I think, Notre Dame has a local send-off for local Phoenix kids going to Notre Dame.
Okay.
Well, why not reverse it?
Yeah.
Here's Canisius kids coming to Phoenix or Chicago or Miami, wherever. Well, there's Canisius alumni there. Maybe we can provide some help and coaching or local.
It's a great idea.
Sponsor family or something.
Right. Great idea. Keep the connection going and welcome them to their new, home. There's a lot of changes that part of your life, and it'd be nice to have somebody that maybe's had a similar background or experience to help you through that.
Right. Exactly.
Great. And as you, I know you're recently retired, very recently. As you think about the future a little bit, near term and longer term, what kind of plans do you have? What are some things that you're looking forward to doing in the next phase of your life?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm completely out of that phase. So I retired last July, and I was fortunate to be able to retire early. I'm 61. And I will tell you, one of the reasons I retired when I did is because I lost an older brother, also a Canisius grad. At 62 years old, died way too young. He had just retired himself. And I decided it finally hit you. Life is short. Things happen in an instant.
Sure.
And I decided, I'm going to start enjoying all that I've built up and prepared for all of these years. What am I waiting for?
Right.
And I got all 4 of our kids are here in Arizona as well. So I want to be able to enjoy that circumstance. That's one of the reasons I retired. But I'm probably not completely out of it. I'm taking up new hobbies. I'm playing a little more golf than I did, but I don't want to play golf every day of the week. That's too boring. I donate time to the local food bank, which happens to be the first food bank in the country. Fabulous operation. St. Mary's Food Bank is what it's called. Blood donations. I keep myself very busy, and I know it's funny for people that aren't working. It's funny for me too. The busyness is different, but I want to travel some more, but I also think I might want to keep my hand in the game a little bit. I'm thinking maybe I want to open myself up to consulting for anybody that would have me coaching, things like that. So kind of the short answer is still a work in process in terms of what I want to do when I grow up and what I want to do in retirement here. So
Sure. And you still got a lot to give. So that's great. That's and good luck with all of those things.
Thank
Jim,
you.
Thank you for spending some time with us today and just, briefly giving us a glimpse into your career and your successes and giving us some great advice and things to think about. And we appreciate it. And hopefully the next time you're in Buffalo, you stop by 1180 and see the school. It's becoming such a great place over the years, physically developing, still, expanding and adding new pieces. We have two building projects that we're working on this summer, our Center for Global Learning and our Stransky Athletic Complex. We're building some baseball fields out there. So make sure, don't be a stranger. And hopefully Canisius High School can get out to Scottsdale very soon and see our alums out there, because we do have a good group out that way.
I would hope so. That'd be fun. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Good luck with
You're
everything.
welcome, Andy. Thank you.
Have a
Take
good
care
one.
and good luck. Yep.
Thanks, Jack. Bye.